and welcome to episode 2 of Serving Nerve. It's 12:30 at night right now, and I just got back from work. And pardon me constantly looking down here when I know you're up there, but I'm not used to looking at like a camera. I'm used to looking at a screen. Yeah. Anyways, let's just get into it. Today we're going to be talking about alcohol, and we're also going to be talking about a bunch of other substances that people utilize when it comes to being a server. So, as a server, a lot of the time you're exposed to really high stress environments. You're exposed to like a lot of alcohol. You're also exposed to a lot of people who have exposure to a lot of substances. So the result is you're just commonly going to find yourself in that zone where everybody's drinking, and or a lot of people in your workplace, they might be drunk, they might be high, literally while they're on the job. But outside of that, even when you get out of work, people, like, at night, you get out pretty late, when you're serving. Like, right now, I literally just got back from work and I showered and it's 12:30. So, a lot of time you're like really tired. You want to unwind with a drink. Or everybody gets out super late and then you go to a dive bar and then you get hammered and then you Uber home. And a lot of people that I know who are in the restaurant industry, they do have a lot of DUIs. They have a lot of, drug habits. They have a lot of alcoholism habits. They have just some kind of vice. In general, a lot of people have vices anyways. So I don't know the validity if it's actually more prevalent in the restaurant industry, but I would suspect so, because a lot of people I have talked to that work in different departments, different places, they don't have the same level of exposure to those substances and those other sorts of people that are more into those substances than in other workplaces. It still happens, but I've found that it's less common, even though my experience is predominantly only with serving. Hasn't been every place I've served at, by all means, but a lot of the places I've served at do have exposure to this at a constant rate. And I'd say it's because it is one of the most stressful jobs you can possibly have, that is also sweltering with alcohol and people who are constantly doing something. What is this? I have no idea. I put vodka, which I did not measure, grapefruit that I fresh squeezed, so it's got some Greyhound vibes, strawberry liqueur, and then also some Topo Chico. So it's a pretty nice little sum of deliciousness. But anyways, in general, substance abuse is a big problem. But we're also going to be talking about side work today. You as a server will have running side work and closing side work, usually. Running side work is stuff that you do to uphold things in the restaurant while you are working your shift. This can be polishing silverware, polishing plates, cleaning things, refilling water containment units. It depends on where you work. Sometimes it's restocking glasses, restocking wine, cleaning a soda station. Just depends. Some people all have different side works, maintaining different zones throughout the night. Some places, are completely different, where it's like everybody has silverware to do. It just depends. When it comes to closing side work, again, it's usually delegated tasks. Could be cleaning the soda machine at the end of the night. Could be sweeping under all the tables. Usually, it depends on the location, the place. Every single place I've been to has different side work, both running side work and closing side work. But outside of that, you usually have to wait until all your tables leave, which makes sense. You usually are given a section to operate as a server, and those sections are full of tables, usually anywhere from 3 to 4 tables. There are some sections that might be more, there might be less, just depends on where you work and what you do. But in general, that section you maintain, you clean, you make sure that people leave that section. Some places, you don't have to clean that section. Depends on where you're working in the restaurant industry. Depends on what restaurant you're working at. Sometimes the back of house people will do it. Sometimes the end of the night, you can just leave after everybody's been paid out. You don't have to worry about them, leaving the establishment before you leave. But in general, you operate a section, usually has some kind of closing work over there that you have to do, wiping up tables, removing plates, closing everybody out, making sure they leave, wiping all the, booths or the seats or whatever. And then on top of that, you also have, usually some side work, folds, rolls, silverware, plates, just depends. And then you'll have some other kind of closing side work, like cleaning a certain area of the restaurant, doing a certain thing, cleaning things like wine stands, or I don't know, wiping bar tops or whatever. It just depends on where you work. But in general, so It's not really that laborious, but I've also worked at places where it's insane. The first job that I had, oh my god, that allergy place that I was talking about, they have way more crazy side work than I've ever been exposed to outside of any of the other places I've worked. And it was the first job I ever had. The job that I have now, super easy side work. It's ridiculous. It's funny because it's one of the best pays that I've ever gotten. Like, the pay is outstanding in comparison to all the other places I've worked. And then outside of that, it's got the easiest side work, which is insane. Like, you know, we close at like 11:30ish or somewhere in that neck of the woods. I don't know, 10:45, depends. It depends on seating, because this is a thing. It's based on your reservations for when you can actually figure out when you're going to be cut. And that's another thing that I want to talk about, is cuts. So you as a server have a certain time when you go in for your shift. You can have an opening shift, and maybe it's earlier than other servers, or you come in at a designated time. Whatever the case is, let's say it's 5 o'clock that you come in just to serve. You aren't opening anything up, because at the end of the day, if you're an opener as a server, you've got way more stuff to clean, way more stuff to do. Literally, you have to prepare the restaurant for what is about to happen, which is tons of people coming in. It's usually like filling waters, setting tables, putting like candles and things, doing this, doing that, making sure things look right, you know? Maybe you'll help the bar set themselves up. Whatever the case is, it just depends on the place. But you are set for a certain amount of time when you come in. So you as the server come in at a certain time, and by a certain point in time, based on usually reservations, you're going to be cut. When you are cut, you are going to end up no longer being sat in your section with your tables. That gives you the opportunity to start doing your side work, your closing work, cleaning up, finishing the tables that you got, taking those tips, running your checkout, getting the hell out of there. Because at the end of the day, you're done. You don't want to be there anymore. Because after after a certain point, you just start losing your mind. And it's way worse when you're an opener. When you open, it's supposed to be, the rule is first in, first out. Never works that way. It's always a case where the person who opens ends up always getting sat with the last table for whatever reason, and it sucks. It blows bubbles. And I say that a lot, blowing bubbles. It's the only thing I can blow, honestly. God, it's why I can't keep a boyfriend. But the point I'm trying to make is, sorry, my hair's getting in my way, and I keep touching it, and it's messing with my head. But anyways, in general, that looks terrible. You know what? I need to stop mirroring myself. Anyways, I'm looking at you now. I need to actually get in on this freaking webcam that I paid money for. So, yeah, being cut is great, but honestly, there are some restaurants where it's like you get cut and you get sat anyways, and it's just based on luck of the draw. But it's supposed to be first in, first out. Oftentimes isn't the case. I got out I got out around the same time as my opener. So, it just depends. Like, listen, I'm being kind of nonsensical because honestly, it's the end of the night. And I told myself I'd record a video because I'm really trying to figure out my uploading schedules and stuff. But I'm kind of, this is a disaster, honestly. I really should just fucking stop. But anyways, so when it comes to being a server, you're usually going to have this. You go in at a certain time, you set up things at a certain time, you check your section, whatever the case is for your table section, all that. You have side work that you do throughout the shift, as well as taking care of the tables that you're sat with, running drinks, running food, taking orders, blah, 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 closing out tables, being resat, until the end of the night, when eventually you are cut. Then you do your closing side work, which will consist of things like silverware, this, that, the other, yada, 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 just depends. Then you run your checkout, present it to your closer, who is usually a server who has a closing section. They do all the closing side work. They wait for all the tables to leave in the restaurant. They do all the stuff that's really annoying, but they usually get priority when it comes to seating, so they kind of take the L on it. And then, or, you have to check out with your manager. Just depends on the place. Some places are like, we don't care. Just check out with the closing server. Other places are, you got to check out with a manager and get signed by your manager, but you also have to get confirmation from your closing server. So it's like you have 2 tiers, which is usually like oriented from a less trustworthy space. Place I work at now, you just go with your closing server. They don't really care. Other places I've worked, manager, always. It's a lot of stuff, but it's honestly one of the easy, it's actually so funny because it's very linear. It's like you go in, you do your job like any other job. You've got things you do throughout the shift. You got things you do like after the shift, and then you get out of there. But the problem is when something gets impaired, like a table won't leave, and it's been an hour and a half. I've dealt with that before after closing, and they just don't leave. God, I remember this one Thursday night we had a VIP, and they came for drinks, and it wasn't even originally my table. It was somebody else's table, and it was like they just didn't want it. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. And they literally got like $75 worth of drinks. Yes, which is sad because it's literally like one round of drinks for like a table of 3 or something like that. And they went and they did that, and they didn't leave for, I swear to God, I paid them out, and for an hour, this dude, and he would not like let go of this. This dude had the check that you write the tip on in front of him for an hour, and he had it open with his cards sitting in there. I couldn't move it. So I was opening that day. It was a Thursday. I remember it so well. And this dude had me staying there from like my opening time until like midnight by just like being a jerk, basically, because he saw that I was trying to clean everything up, get everything going, and that we're all like, the lights are on in the restaurant by now. We're an hour into being closed. We're all cleaning everything up. He just will not relinquish it. He was the only person left in the restaurant. Literally every single table left, and they were there for literally just a round of drinks. They were nice. This is the problem, is they were nice, but there's a threshold where it's like, dude, stay as long as you want. I'm not the closer, but please just give me the check. Just give me the check so I can leave. Just give me the check so I can run my check out. I don't even care if there's a tip in there. I just need to run it so I can get out. In fact, I was contemplating, I'm like, what's the most money this dude's ever going to give me? Probably $15 because that's a 20% tip. It's not like he's going to give me $1,000. It doesn't matter if they're VIP or not. They barely tip. Like, a lot of the time when somebody says VIP or they're a regular or something, unless they actually are, like, chill vibing, they're usually just going to tip you whatever the bare minimum is. Or they won't tip you very well. I've known a lot of, like, VIPs or regulars that don't tip very well. So, in general, like, these kinds of things vary. I don't know why I'm rambling about this, but the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, you as a server, you got all this side work, you got things like that, this, that, and the other. Being cut doesn't mean anything. In fact, at this point, I don't even worry about getting cut because I know I'm going to get sat with something later, even if I am cut. Like tonight, it was like, hey, can you guys tell me when I'm cut? Whatever. Like, can you guys just tell me, like, what's happening? Because we have a really weird stagnation tonight where I had my whole section cleared, paid out. Was told I had to get rid of a certain table by a certain time. Did it. They didn't reseat that table until literally, like, 10:30. It had been like 3 hours past the time I had that table out. Things like that, you know? So there's a lot of like baloney that goes on where they're like, you need to get rid of this table now. We're going to reseat you with this. You're cut by this time. Blah, 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 blah. We're trying to refill the restaurant with this, this, and this. There are this many tables left for the end of the night. You guys are all going to get these. It never happens. Never ever listen to whenever they tell you that. Just take it into account and be like, okay, I should expect this, but honestly, it's probably not going to happen. That's always how it goes. There's no consistency. That's the thing about restaurants that is great, but also terrible. There's no consistency. So even if you get screwed commonly, there's a chance you won't get screwed. But also, no matter what that bill is, no matter what table you get, no matter if it's a 2-top, a 6-top, like, you know, a ton of people, a little bit of people, 2-top, 2 people, 6-top, 6 people, you know what I mean? You can get screwed in any direction. You can also make a ton of money in any direction. The best tip that I got today was from the first table I got, angelic sorts. They wanted a bottle of wine, made my recommendations, recommended food to them, got them going with an appetizer, another appetizer, because they, you know, like I had their entrees on hold, so I was like, hey, take your time. You guys are having a special night. Also, it was sat outside of my section, so I was like, all right, cool, because I don't have to worry about timing things so that I'm pressured with things in my section. So it was at a different table, which was fantastic. And then I got everything going. $100 tip. $100 tip. The bill was like $400, but it was like a fantastic tip. It was like, I think, a 25% tip, which is the best tip I had all night. And also, I got undertipped through a lot of other tables and or dealt with a lot of like weird situations with other tables. So that table was absolutely fantastic and basically paid me enough to cope with the night. Like, it was good. And it wasn't even supposed to be my table. It was just because there was nobody in the restaurant other than one other person. So I come in and I'm like, what's up? And then they try to give me two tables. And then somebody else takes another table and I take the one table and I get that one tip. And that was absolutely outstanding. So, but like, this is the thing. This is how it goes. There's so much inconsistency in the restaurant industry. There's side work, there's cuts, there's seating, there's insanity. It never ends. And then there's alcoholism. I get up early. I have to get up in 6 hours because that's my schedule. And that's another thing I'd like to talk about. It's really easy, especially if you work at a restaurant that literally just operates at night, to get into these weird habits where you're not actually like doing anything other than going to the restaurant and working. Like you get home at like 1 a.m, you drink, you smoke a little bit of something, you know, or you take a little something, or you do something. I do not particularly enjoy the prospect of partaking in such. Anyways, you come home, you drink, you eat. By the time you're in bed, it's like 3 or 4 in the morning. You go to bed, you wake up at noon. You go to work at like 3. You don't really give yourself a lot of time to do anything. Sometimes you'll work out, sometimes you'll do this, that, and the other. But for me right now, I'm really trying, no matter what time I get home and no matter what time I end up in bed, I always endeavor to get up early. And it's at least going to be like I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning-ism. And right now it's basically 1 in the morning. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to go watch MasterChef. Slater!